Greetings everyone, my name is Gigi and this is Let's Build, wherein I build a Lego set timed to different media and talk about the facts concerning the topic of the build. Today's build is the Lego Airport Shuttle $63.99 versus Airport Security. All footage I'm using is for science, educational, and research purposes. My content is transformative and protected under fair use. All footage is time-lapse with commentary. I apologize in advance for pronouncing any names and/or places incorrectly. This is a special episode for my friends who work at the TSA. Specifications of this Lego set. Airport Shuttle $63.99 is a town airport set released in 1990. It contains a monorail track with a monorail train and 2 way stations, accompanying buildings and accessories, and 9 minifigures. Much like the first monorail set, which was $69.90 Monorail Transport System from 1987, the trains consist of 2 rail cars attached to a central motor module with gear drive. Each car contains a cabin for a driver. One car contains 3 passenger seats, while the second one contains the 9-volt battery box and just 2 passenger seats. The drive module is the same white unit that was already present in the older monorail transport system, but is concealed by a unique red cover element. The first way station is built on the ground level and consists of a railway platform with 2 seats and a curved roof. Next to it are 2 lock boxes. Across the street is a phone booth, 2 seats, and 2 street lamps. On one side of the support strut of the roof is a sticker with a plan of the monorail track, and on the other side, the train schedule. There are also signposts with the Airport Shuttle logo on the traffic island. The platform of the second way station is on the upper level and can be reached via a long staircase. On the platform, there are 3 seats, and it has a canopy with a plan of the monorail track and a schedule. Below the platform on the ground level is a hamburger stand with tables in front of it. Inside the stall are tabs for mustard and ketchup, as well as several hamburgers, which consist of round 1x1 plates and a cook. Across the street are 2 seats and 2 street lamps. The traffic island is occupied by 2 trees. Among the minifigures are a train conductor, a pilot, a baggage porter, a cook, an airport employee with the airport logo on his torso piece, and 4 normal passengers. Lego also released an accompanying extension set in the same year, 6347 Monorail Accessory Track, which also contains the first Lego monorail switch tracks, which we also have but did not display for this set. This was the second of just 3 proper sets with monorail trains and tracks, not counting the accessory sets, and other ones being $68.90 Monorail Transport System from 1987 and $69.91 Monorail Transport Base from 1994. Both from Lego Space. From these 3 sets, $63.99 Airport Shuttle contains the most pieces and also features the longest monorail track. The logo for the hamburger stand is the same as in 6683 Hamburger Stand, released 8 years earlier. The gray base plate with green island is a unique part to this set. Variants of the same base plate with different prints appear in other sets. A monorail is an urban rail transit type in which trains run on or are suspended above a single rail or beam structure to transport people. They have an intermediate transport capacity at the regional and metropolitan level, generally greater than that of the tram and less than that of the rapid transit. Colloquially, the term monorail is often used to describe any form of elevated rail or people mover. More accurately, the term refers to the style of track. Monorail systems are most frequently implemented in large cities, airports, and theme parks. Monorails have found applications in airport transfers and medium-capacity metros. To differentiate monorails from other transport modes, the Monorail Society defines a monorail as single rail serving as a track for passenger or freight vehicles. In most cases, rail is elevated, but monorails can also run at grade, below grade, or in subway tunnels. Vehicles either are suspended from or straddle a narrow guideway. Monorail vehicles are wider than the guideway that supports them. History. The first monorail prototype was made in Russia in 1820 by Ivan Elmanov. Attempts at creating monorail alternatives to conventional railways have been made since the early part of the 19th century. The Centennial Monorail was featured at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia in 1876. Based on its design, the Bradford and Foster Brook Railway was built in 1877 and ran for 1 year from January 1878 until January of 1879. Around 1879, a one-rail system was proposed independently by Haddon and by Stringfellow, which used an inverted V-rail. It was intended for military use, but was also seen to have civilian use as a cheap railway. Similarly, one of the first systems put into practical use was that of French engineer Charles Lartigue, who built a line between Ballybunion and Listowel in Ireland, opened in 1888 and lasted 36 years, being closed in 1924 due to damage from Ireland's Civil War. It used a load-bearing single rail and 2 lower external rails for balance. The 3 carried on triangular supports. It was cheap to construct but tricky to operate. Possibly the first monorail locomotive was an 030 steam locomotive on this line. A high-speed monorail using the Lartigue system was proposed in 1901 between Liverpool and Manchester. The Boynton Bicycle Railroad was a steam-powered monorail in Brooklyn on Long Island, New York. It ran on a single load-bearing rail at ground level, but with a wooden overhead stabilizing rail engaged by a pair of horizontally opposed wheels. The railway operated for only 2 years, beginning in 1890. The Hotchkiss Bicycle Railroad was a monorail on which a matching pedal bicycle could be ridden. The first example was built between Smithville and Mount Holly, New Jersey in 1892. It closed in 1897. Other examples were built in Norfolk from 1895 to 1909, Great Yarmouth, and Blackpool, UK from 1896. Early designs used a double-phalanged single metal rail alternative to the double rail of conventional railways, both guiding and supporting the monorail car. A surviving suspended version is the oldest still-in-service system, the Wuppertal monorail in Germany. Also in the early 1900s, gyro monorails with cars gyroscopically balanced on top of a single rail were tested, but never developed beyond the prototype stage. The Ewing system, used in the Patiala state monorail trainways in Punjab, India, relies on a hybrid model with a load-bearing single rail and an external wheel for balance. A high-speed monorail using Lartigue's system was proposed in 1901 between Liverpool and Manchester. In 1910, the Brennan gyroscopic monorail was considered for use to a coal mine in Alaska. In June of 1920, the French Patent Office published FR 503282 by Henry Coanda on an air carrier. One of the first monorails planned in the United States was in New York City in the early 1930s, scrubbed for an elevated train system. The first half of the 20th century saw many further proposed designs that either never left the drawing board or remained short-lived prototypes. Another project created on the layout was the ball-bearing train by Nikolai Grigorovich Yarmolchuk. This train moved on spherical wheels with electric motors embedded in them, which were located in semicircular chutes under a wooden platform. A model train built 1/5 scale to test the vehicle concept was capable of reaching speeds of up to 70 kilometers. The full-scale project was expected to reach speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour. In the latter half of the 20th century, monorails had settled on using larger beam or girder-based track, with vehicles supported by one set of wheels and guided by another. In the 1950s, 40% scale prototype of a system designed for speeds of 200 miles per hour on a straight stretch and 90 miles per hour on curves was built in Germany. There were designs with vehicles supported, suspended, or cantilevered from the beams. In the 1950s, the ALWEG straddle design emerged, followed by an updated suspended type, the SAFEGE system. Versions of the ALWEG's technology are used by the two largest monorail manufacturers, Hitachi Monorail and Bombardier. In 1956, the first monorail to operate in the U.S. began test operations in Houston, Texas. Disneyland in Anaheim, California, opened the United States' first daily operating monorail system in 1959. Later during this period, additional monorails were installed at Walt Disney World in Florida, Seattle, and in Japan. Monorails were promoted as futuristic technology, with exhibition installments and amusement park purchases as seen by the legacy systems in use today. However, monorails gained little foothold compared to conventional transport systems. In March 1972, Alejandro Goicoechea Omar had patent DE 1755-19-8 published on a vertebrae train, built as experimental track in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, Spain. Niche private enterprise uses for monorails emerged, with the emergence of air travel and shopping malls, with shuttle-type systems being built. From the 1980s, most monorail mass transport systems are in Japan, with a few exceptions. Tokyo Monorail is one of the world's busiest, averaging 127,000 passengers per day and has served over 1.5 billion passengers since 1964. China recently started development on monorails in the late 2000s, already home to the world's largest and busiest monorail system, and has a number of mass transit monorails under construction in several cities. A Bombardier Innovia monorail-based system is under construction in Wuhu, and several cloud rail systems developed by BYD are under construction in a number of cities. Monorails have seen continuing use in niche shuttle markets and amusement parks. Modern mass transit monorail systems use developments of the ALWEG beam and tire approach, with only two suspended types in large use. Monorail configurations have also been adopted by maglev trains. Since the 2000s, with the rise of traffic congestion and urbanization, there has been a resurgence of interest in the technology for public transport with a number of cities, such as Malta and Istanbul, today investigating monorails as possible mass transit solutions. Types and technical aspects. Modern monorails depend on a large solid beam as the vehicle's running surface. There are a number of competing designs divided into two broad cases: straddle beam and suspended monorails. The most common type is the straddle beam, in which the train straddles a steel or reinforced concrete beam 2 to 3 feet wide. A rubber-tired carriage connects the beam on top and on both sides for traction and to stabilize the vehicle. The style was popularized by the German company Allweg. There is also a historical type of suspension monorail developed by German inventors Nikolaus Otto and Eugen Langen in the 1880s. It was built in the twin cities of Barmen and Elberfeld in Wuppertal, Germany, opened in 1901, and is still in operation. The Chiba Urban Monorail is the world's largest suspended network. Power. Almost all modern monorails are powered by electric motors fed by dual third rails, contact wires, or electrified channels attached to or enclosed in their guidance beams. Historically, some systems, such as the Lartigue monorail, used steam locomotives, but diesel-powered monorail systems also existed. Magnetic levitation. Magnetic levitation train, or maglev, systems such as the German Transrapid were built as straddle-type monorails. The Shanghai maglev train runs in a commercial operation at 430 kilometers per hour, and there's also slower maglev monorails intended for urban transport in Japan, Korea, and China. However, it is argued that the larger width of the guideway for the maglevs make it not legitimate to be called monorails. Switching. Switching in monorail systems varies by design and technology. One of the earliest systems, the Wuppertal Suspension Railway in Germany, uses vehicles suspended beneath a single levitated rail with steel wheels running on top. Due to the design of the cars, switching requires a complex rotating mechanism that physically turn the track structure. As a result, the system operates without bypasses or spur lines, with a loop at either end to turn trains around. The mechanical complexity and limitations of early switching systems contributed to the perception that monorails were generally inflexible or unsuited for branching routes. However, modern monorail technologies have introduced a variety of switching methods that address these limitations. For suspended monorails, newer designs, such as those used by the SafeG and H-Bahn systems, incorporate internal pivoting components. These systems use movable plates within the guideway to change direction without moving the entire beam, allowing for more compact and efficient switches. Straddle beam monorails employ either segmented or beam-moving switch systems. The segmented switch, developed by Allweg in the 1950s and is still in use in Japan, uses flexible beam sections that can shift between straight and curved segments, requiring relatively little space and enabling faster switching. Another method, known as beam replacement switch, involves moving a straight beam section aside while a curved beam section moves into place and is capable of completing a switch in approximately 12 seconds. Rotary switches have a straight beam and a curved beam on either side of the plate, which can rotate 180 degrees. In addition to these switching mechanisms, some systems use turntables or transfer tables at maintenance facilities or depots. These allow vehicles to be redirected to and from storage or service lines. In 1987, LEGO released a monorail among the Futuron Space line. Despite being the most expensive LEGO set at the time, due to being massive and including electrical components, it was very popular, with LEGO releasing a town-themed monorail in 1990 and another space monorail in 1994 among the Unitron line, as well as additional tracks. The monorail system was also prominent in the unreleased Seatron Space Line and prototype Wild West sets. Its popularity has still endured over 30 years later, where LEGO has paid homage to promotional sets and fans have manufactured compatible components. A people mover, or automated people mover, APM, is a type of small-scale automated guideway transit system. This term is generally used only to describe systems serving relatively small areas such as airports, downtown districts, or theme parks. The term was originally applied to 3 different systems, developed roughly at the same time. One was Skybus, an automated mass transit system prototyped by the Westinghouse Electric Corporation beginning in 1964. The second, alternately called the People Mover and Minirail, opened in Montreal at Expo 67. Finally, the last, called People Mover or Wedway People Mover, was an attraction that was originally presented by Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company and that opened at Disneyland in 1967. The term People Mover currently describes technologies such as monorail, rail tracks, and maglev. Propulsion may involve conventional onboard electric motors, linear motors, or cable traction. Generally speaking, larger APMs are referred to by other names. The most generic is automated guideway transit, which encompasses any automated system regardless of size. Some complex APMs deploy fleets of small vehicles over a track network with offline stations and supply near nonstop service to passengers. These taxi-like systems are more usually referred to as personal rapid transit. Larger systems with vehicles with 20 to 40 passengers are sometimes referred to as group rapid transit, although this term is not particularly common. Other complex APMs have similar characteristics to rapid transit systems, and there is no clear-cut distinction between a complex APM of this type and the automated mass transit system. Another term, light metro, is also applied to describe the system worldwide. History: Never Stop Railway. One of the first automated systems for human transportation was the screw-driven Never Stop Railway. Constructed for the British Empire exhibition in Wembley, London in 1924, this railway consisted of 88 unmanned carriages on a continuous double track along the northern and eastern sides of the exhibition, with reversing loops at either end. The carriages ran on 2 parallel concrete beams and were guided by pulleys running on the inner side of these concrete beams, and were propelled by gripping a revolving screw thread running between the tracks in a pit. By adjusting the pitch of this thread at different points, the carriages could be sped up or slowed down to a walking pace at stations to allow passengers to join and leave. The railway ran reliably for 2 years of the exhibition and then was dismantled. Goodyear and Stevens Adamson. In late 1949, Mike Kendall, chief engineer and chairman of the board of Stevens Adamson Manufacturing Company, an Illinois-based manufacturer of conveyor belts and systems, asked Al Nielsen, an engineer in the industrial products division of Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, if Goodyear had ever considered working on people movers. He felt that with Goodyear's ability to move materials in large quantities on conveyor belts, they should consider moving batches of people. 4 years of engineering design, development, and testing led to a joint patent being issued for 3 types of people movers, named Speedwalk, Speed Ramp, and Carveyor. Goodyear will sell the concept, and Stevens Adamson would manufacture and install the components. A speedwalk consisted of a flat conveyor belt riding on a series of rollers, or a flat, slippery surface, moving at 1.5 miles per hour, approximately half the speed of walking. The passengers could walk onto the belt and could stand or walk to the exit point. They were supported by moving handrail. Customers were expected to include airport terminals, ballparks, train stations, etc. Today, several manufacturers produce similar units called moving walkways. A speed ramp was very similar to a speed walk, but it was used to change elevations, up or down a floor level. This could have been accomplished by an escalator, But the speed ramp would allow wheeled luggage, small hand carts, etc., to ride the belt at the operating cost predicted to be much lower than the escalators or elevators. The first successful installation of a speed ramp was in the spring of 1954 at the Hudson and Manhattan Railroad Station in Jersey City, New Jersey, to connect the Erie Railroad to the Hudson and Manhattan tubes. This unit was 220 feet long, with a rise of 22 feet on a 15-degree grade, and only cost $75,000. A carveyor consisted of many small cubicles or cars carrying 10 people riding on a flat conveyor belt from point A to point B. The belt rode on a series of motorized rollers. The purpose of the motorized rollers was to facilitate the gradual acceleration and deceleration speeds on the conveyor belt and overcome the tendency of all the belts to stretch at startup and during shutdown. At point A, passengers would enter a speedwalk running parallel to the belts and cars of the conveyor. The cars would be moving at the same speed as the speedwalk. The passengers would enter the cars and be seated, while the motorized rollers would increase the speed of the cars up to traveling speed, which would be preset depending on the distance to be covered. At point B, passengers could disembark and by means of a series of flat slower belts, the speedwalks, could go to other carveyors, to other destinations, or about the street. The cars at point B would continue on rollers around in a semicircle and then reverse the process carrying passengers back to point A. The initial installation was going to be the 42nd Street Shuttle in New York City between Times Square and Grand Central Station. Colonel Sidney H. Bingham, chairman of the New York City Board of Transportation, had several meetings with a group of architects who were trying to revamp the whole New York City subway system in the heart of town to connect Pennsylvania Station, Madison Square Garden, Times Square, Grand Central, and several new office complexes altogether. Several of these architects were involved in other programs, and in later years many variations of the Carveyor people movers were developed. In November 1954, the New York City Transit Authority issued an order to Goodyear and Stevens Adamson to build a complete carveyor system between Times Square and Grand Central. A brief summary and confirmation can be found in Time magazine on November 15, 1954, under the heading, Subway of the Future. The cost was to be under $4 million, but the order was never fulfilled due to political difficulties. Chocolate World in Hershey, Pennsylvania, Disneyland in California, and Walt Disney World in Florida are among many locations that have used variations of the carveyor concept. Other developments. The term people mover was used by Walt Disney when he and his Imagineers were working on the new 1967 Tomorrowland at Disneyland. The name was used as a working title for a new attraction, the People Mover. According to Imagineer Bob Gurr, the name got stuck, and it was no longer a working title. Starting in late 1960s and into the 1970s, people movers were the topic of intense development around the world. Worried about the growing congestion and pollution in downtown areas due to the spread of cars, many countries started studying mass transit systems that would lower capital costs to the point where any city could afford to deploy them. Most of these systems used elevated guideways, which were much less expensive to deploy than tunnels. However, elevating the track causes problems with noise, so traditional steel wheel-on-rail solutions were rare as they squealed when rounding bends in the rail. Rubber-tired solutions were common, but some systems used hovercraft technologies or various magnetic levitation systems. Two major government-funded APM projects are notable. In Germany, Mannesmann Demeg and Messerschmitt Volkau Blom developed a system known as cabinet taxi during the 1970s. Cabinet taxi featured small cars with from 4 to 8 seats that were called to pick up passengers on demand and drive directly to their destination. The stations were offline, allowing the cabs to stop by moving off the main lines while other cars continued to their destination. The system was designed so the cars could be adapted to run on top or bottom of the track, but not easily converted from one to the other, allowing dual-track movements from a single elevated guideway only slightly wider than the cars. A test track was completed in 1979 and ran until development was completed in 1979. But no deployments followed, and the companies abandoned the system shortly thereafter. In the U.S., a 1966 federal bill provided funding that led to the development of APM systems under the Downtown People Mover program. 4 systems were developed: Rohr's Romag, LTV's AirTrans, Ford's APT, and Otis Elevator's hovercraft design. A major presentation of the systems was organized at Transpo 72 at Dulles International Airport, where the various systems were presented to delegations from numerous cities in the U.S. Prototype systems and test tracks were built during the 1970s. One notable example was Pittsburgh's Skybus, which was proposed by the Port Authority of Allegheny County to replace its streetcar system, which, having large stretches of private right-of-way, was not suited for bus conversion. A short demonstration line was set up in South Korea, and large tracts of land were secured for its facilities. However, opposition arose to the notion that it would replace the streetcar system. This, combined with the immaturity of the technology and other factors, led most politicians had lost interest in the concept, and the project was repeatedly defunded in the early 1980s. The only 2 APMs were developed as part of the People Mover program: the Metro Mover in Miami and Detroit People Mover. The Jacksonville Skyway was built in the late 1980s. I've actually been on the Detroit People Mover. From development to implementation. Although many systems were generally considered failures, several APM systems developed by other groups have been much more successful. Lighter systems with shorter tracks are widely deployed at airports. The world's first airport people movers, the Tampa International Airport People Mover, was installed 1971 at Tampa International Airport in the United States. APMs have now become common at large airports and hospitals in the U.S. Driverless metros have become common in Europe and parts of Asia. Thus, cities normally thought of as too small to build a metro are doing so now. Airports. Many large international airports around the world feature people mover systems to transport passengers between terminals or within the terminal itself. Some people mover systems at airports connect with other public transportation systems to allow passengers to travel into the airport city. The Harry Reid International Airport People Movers are 3 separate automatic people mover systems operating at Harry Reid International Airport near Las Vegas, Nevada. The people mover system consists of 3 separate lines: the green line connecting the main terminal to the Gate C concourse, the blue line connecting the main terminal to Gate D concourse, and the red line connecting the Gate D concourse to Terminal 3. Each line currently uses CityFlow 650 radio-based moving block signaling technology, which was introduced to the tram system when the green and blue line vehicles were replaced. The Red Line has always used moving block signaling technology as it opened in 2012, and it is the newest of the three lines. The lines were branded to their current names in 2016. This was done to lessen the passengers' confusion as to which line to take them from D gates to baggage claim. Lines: the Green Line. The Green Line was the first people mover line at the airport, opening in 1985. It connects Terminal 1 with the Seagate Concourse, which primarily serves Southwest Airlines. The Green Line features two parallel quarter-mile tracks, each with two car trams running back and forth between the two stations. In 2008, the line's original Westinghouse AdTrans C100 vehicles were replaced with the current Bombardier Innova APM 100 vehicles. The Blue Line. The Blue Line is the longest of the three lines, and it connects Terminal 1 building with the satellite D-Gate concourse. Similar to the Green Line, the Blue Line consists of 2-kilometer-long parallel tracks with trams shuttling back and forth between the two stations. The Blue Line opened in 1998, when the D-Gates concourse opened and introduced the CX100 vehicles. Each tram on the Blue Line consists of 3 cars, each of which has a capacity of 270 people. When the Green Line fleet was replaced, the Blue Line's original AdTrans CX100 vehicles were also replaced soon after, with the current Bombardier Innova APM 100 vehicles, similar to the previous vehicles in the early 2009. The Red Line. Terminal 3 is connected to the D-Gates concourse via the Red Line. Like the two prior lines, the Red Line consists of 2 tracks, each with a 3-car tram shuttling back and forth between the two stations. The third line also uses Bombardier Innova APM 100 vehicles. Like the plane train at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport and the DIA shuttle at Denver International Airport, the line is completely underground. Currently in the United States, there are 22 airport monorails, also known as people movers. Airport Security. Airport Security is a casual simulation game that immerses you in a high-stakes world of airport security, placing you in the role of a vigilant security officer dedicated to safeguarding a bustling terminal. Your mission is to maintain a secure environment by identifying suspicious passengers, spotting fake passports, and uncovering hidden contraband using cutting-edge X-ray machines. With each decision, you ensure that only law-abiding travelers make it to their gates, navigating unique interrogation scenarios and confronting realistic challenges. Will you rise to the occasion and preserve the tranquility of air travel? Your journey begins now. To play, you'll start by meticulously checking passports and scrutinizing any conflicting information that raises a red flag. Your keen eye for detail is crucial, and your job is to highlight suspicious discrepancies and make the critical decision of whether to apprehend the individual. As you pat down passengers, you'll uncover a surprising range of items. What may seem like a harmless possession, such as bananas and rubber duckies, could easily be hiding more sinister contraband, including live bats and, alarmingly, even firearms. Each interrogation poses a new challenge, and the choice to arrest rests solely on your judgment. Once you've identified a potential threat, you'll escort them to the interrogation room, a high-stakes environment where you can delve deeper into their motives. Here you'll confront suspects with the evidence you've gathered, engaging in tense dialogue to uncover their true intentions. The pressure mounts as you work to discern truth from deception, and if the severity of their actions warrants it, you'll have the authority to send them to jail. Meanwhile, your role extends beyond mere enforcement. You also have the opportunity to enhance the duty-free area, transforming it into a comfortable and secure haven for passengers. Be prepared for unexpected twists. Some criminals might take hostages, thrusting you into nerve-wracking negotiation scenarios that require quick thinking and diplomacy. In airport security, every decision carries weight, and your ability to maintain order amidst chaos is put to the ultimate test. Airport Security was released October 2021 for Android and iOS. Airport Security was developed by Quali Limited. It is currently hosted on a variety of platforms, including web browser, desktop and mobile, Android, and iOS. After the 6-day mark, the gameplay begins to loop the passengers. I feel like there is really only about 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay. Once you've unlocked all the duty-free area and upgraded the checkpoint, the money becomes meaningless. I wish there were more goals to accomplish or consequences for your decisions. I played until day 25, and there didn't seem to be an end in sight or any bad endings for failing security checks. The game will not let you detain people without cause, or preemptively take them into the interrogation room if they say something suspicious. So much like in real life, this security job becomes monotonous. The Lego set requires a battery size that I did not have at the time of filming, but I had rebuilt the set over the holidays and the monorail does function properly. In an attempt to keep us from fighting and to encourage us to actually play together as kids, my grandparents had given us this airport shuttle set as well as the international jet port to complete both sides of the airport. Total build time, 1 hour, 41 minutes, 11 seconds. Which means you could watch almost all of the film Carry On. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, share, ring that bell, all the things for the YouTubes. Thank you.